My name is Virginia Harger, Chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, July 28th, and the special meeting of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission, being conducted entirely via Zoom, is hereby called to order. Protocol for today's meeting was previously reviewed by Corporation Counsel, who indicated to me it is compliant with the executive orders issued by the governor and fair for those watching from a remote location. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Please verbally indicate that you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly?
Present.
Commissioner Motto?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Laskos?
Here.
Commissioner Ticky?
Present.
There you are. Okay. Myself, Commissioner Harger. And for staff, Mr. Rossetti, our administrator.
Present.
Mr. O'Neill, our assistant administrator and CEO.
I'm here.
Mr. Nappy, our downtown projects coordinator. You're on mute, Mr. Nappy.
Here. Hello, everybody.
Very good.
Hi.
Okay, Mr. Panico, our consultant.
Here.
Mrs. Renassos, our recording secretary.
Present.
And Stephanie Charbonneau, our stenographer. Alex, was she participating tonight?
Alex must have stepped away.
I'm on mute, sorry. She should be, but the meeting's, it's all recorded, so she can
Right.
follow up as she needs to.
Okay. All right, for the record, Commissioners Parkins and Wadomski and alternate Commissioner Usel all indicated to me that they were unavailable for today's meeting. Alternate Commissioner Laskos, I'd like to seat you in place of Commissioner Parkins.
Okay.
A couple of points before continuing with today's agenda. This is the Commission's 41st meeting being done via a live streaming process. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host. While commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other and to make sure our recording secretary and our stenographer are clear as to who is speaking. Our 3 agenda items are public hearings. After each public hearing is announced, the applicant will begin by making a presentation of its proposal. During and after the presentation, the commission will have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, which can be answered at that time or after the presentation. After the presentation has been completed and after the commission has finished asking questions, members of the public will be invited to address the commission about the proposal. Members of the public addressing the commission during today's public hearing need to be mindful of the following. After you're identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. All comments or questions are to be directed to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and/or his associates. No dialogue is permitted between the public and the applicant or any of the applicant's associates. All comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations and the merits of the application. All comments from the public should be new information and not a repeat of comments previously presented. Unless a member of the public has new comments to or questions of the chair, members of the public who wish to address the commission are asked to briefly indicate whether or not they are in agreement with the previous speaker and not repeat the same testimony. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. After all members of the public who participate today finish addressing the commission, the applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to public comments or questions. After the applicant has and or his associates have concluded their presentation, they've answered all questions, and they've addressed all concerns from the commission and or the public. And if no further information is needed by the commission, the chair will ask for motion to close the public hearing. If the commission feels further information is needed, the chair will ask for motion to keep the public hearing open. If the public hearing closes, the chair will poll the commission for consensus on whether or not there is any reason not to vote on the application. And a reminder to the commission that once a public hearing has opened and until it is closed, commissioners are not permitted to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's presentation, or receive additional information from anyone. I know you've all heard me state all of this, probably 39 out of the 41 Zoom meetings we've had, but it is important that these comments go on the record. Okay, so we'll begin with the first public hearing, application 21-14. Vales Developers LLC. Care of Dominic Thomas, Old Orchard Road at Soundview Avenue. Assessors map 113, lot 97. There's a petition for re-subdivision of lot 9 Harrington Manor to create 2 building lots in an R1 zone. Commissioner Amato, would you read the public hearing notice for that, please?
Sure. Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held virtually on Wednesday, July 28th at 6 o'clock via Zoom to consider the following. Initiation of application 21-14 Vales Developers LLC, care of Dominic Thomas, Old Orchard Road at Soundview Avenue, Assessors map 113, lot 97. Petition for a re-subdivision of lot 9 Harrington Manor. The site is zoned R1 and is generally bounded as follows: northerly by Old Orchard Road, easterly by 24 Old Orchard Road, southerly by 117 Soundview Avenue, westerly by Soundview Avenue. This proposed re-subdivision would create 2 building lots on the subject parcel for 2 single-family homes. The lots are proposed to be serviced by septic and well water. The plans titled Re-Subdivision Lot 9 Harrington Manor were prepared by D'Amico Associates Surveying and Engineering Consultants.
Thank you, Commissioner Amato.
You're welcome.
Okay, this application was accepted for review on June 8th, 2021, and a public hearing was scheduled for today by staff. The site plans for this application were posted to the city's website. Mr. Rossetti, any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
Yes, there was a comment received from a member. We'll show you.
Was this via email or register or a letter?
This is via email from a gentleman who lives down in one of these homes. The applicant is aware of this gentleman's concerns. The topography of this area, so this subdivision is for kind of this rectangle up here. The slope goes from where my arrow currently is down this way. So there are some concerns about water management. The applicant is aware of that. They will be submitting engineered site plans once, assuming the subdivision of the land is approved, to make sure all those concerns are addressed. But with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Okay. All right, Attorney Thomas, you're present, and I assume that you are representing the applicant?
Yes, Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant Vales Developers, and I believe Fred D'Amico from D'Amico Associates is also, I just called him, so I know he's on the.
So did he call in, Dom? Is that him?
He may have called, yes, I assume Fred called in.
Okay, let me just try this. Fred,
That's
are you on the line there? Does your phone number end in 176?
It does.
Okay.
So Fred, you got to unmute yourself. Hopefully he understands that.
I just did. He should be able to speak.
Okay. But anyway, so this is a re-subdivision of an approved lot that has had property added to it. The original subdivision was Harrington Manor. And I provided your planning and zoning staff at the time of the application a copy of the filed Harrington Manor map and a copy of the
Wrong one.
map in which the property from the adjacent, the map that's up on the screen right now, the property from the adjacent property was purchased by my clients to create the size of the parcel that is able to be subdivided into 2 conforming R1 lots. I would state for the record that the property was posted and the notices were sent out, and the photographs of the posting and the copies of the certificates of mailing with the copies of the letters that were sent out were submitted in a PDF form to your Planning and Zoning Commission. And so this is, I believe, what's up now. Let me just see, that's the record subdivision map. I'm going to turn most of it over to Fred. But before I do that, is it possible for me to screen share? Because I want to
Yep.
address. Okay,
Go ahead.
let's hope I can do it right now. Where? Okay, so the email, your staff sent us the email with respect to which with respect, and let me, you can tell me, can you see what's on the screen now or?
No, just a list of what's in your,
Okay, let me try this again. Whoops, let me try it again. Can you see it now?
1 second. There you go.
Okay, so this is to give you a picture, and let me shrink it a little bit so you can get a better picture. So this is similar to the map. This is from the Shelton GIS map. This is 16 Dexter Drive. This has on it the, wanted to orient you with respect to our response. This has on it the elevations, the topography from the GIS. And this represents the parcel that comprises the parcel that's being subdivided. As you know, the GIS map in Shelton is in excess of 5 years behind for being updated. So the parcel that was purchased was not added to this Vales developer's property yet. And this is 16 Dexter Drive. And as you can see from both the picture shown to you and the picture that was the picture shown to you by your staff and this picture, there is a fall off and there is a substantially wooded area. Fred D'Amico will address the issues and concerns with respect to the subdivision. As stated, the subdivision is compliant, and the re-subdivision is compliant with the current R1 standards. I will correct something that I think, Fred D'Amico will elaborate. One of the 2 lots is going to be on public water. The other lot will be on well. Both are on septic, okay? So with that, let me see if I can screen share and okay, so I have the proposed subdivision map and the site plan map. Fred, are you prepared to take over on the site plan map and discuss it and indicate
Yes.
the corrections? Okay. And I'll blow
Yep,
this
can you
up a
hear?
little. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, so both parcel A and parcel B meet all the zoning regs. We did get a letter from the health department that approved the subdivision. They did have a caveat, but which is normal, and especially in Shelton, we are required to have a individual site plan submitted at the time of getting a building permit for each individual lot. But they did approve the septic testing and the proposed septic systems where they are. Like I said, again, they're going to want a in-depth plan at the time of construction, as well as I believe Shelton zoning requires that also. And when we do those individual site plans, we will ensure that each lot will have individual detention gallery system to ensure that to mitigate basically any increase in runoff from the additional impervious areas for both the dwellings and the driveways. So all the runoff, all the increased runoff from those impervious areas will be directed to Galleys, as is normal in the city of Shelton. So those will be on the plans with the calculations to ensure that there will be no problem downstream. Also, we are, in this case, we are fairly far from the one person that was concerned is the nearest construction is over 150 feet away from his lot corner. So we are, even after the Galleys, even if there's any overflow, it has an ample time to percolate into the soil. We don't expect to do any activity anywhere near the, in other words, the southeasterly corner of parcel B, which is the closest point to the neighbor that is concerned. So we are going to be fairly far from that area. Like I said, again, the closest activity is 150 feet, and we also we are proposing to put in galleys to mitigate any increase in runoff. And if you have any questions,
They're not shown though.
Yeah, Mr. D'Amico, I was just going to ask, could you indicate somewhere where those detention galleys were going to be?
the galleys will be, they're not indicated on the plan now, but the galleys will be just basically alongside the house, to the right of the house, to the right of the two proposed dwellings. So even the galleys will be over at least 100, I'd say 150 feet away from that area.
All right, doesn't
Yeah,
this
galleys,
particular piece of property below where the words parcel B appear and in the vicinity of lot 10, doesn't that property in that point drop about 40 feet?
it drops down, it actually drops from about 500 feet down to 470. So it does drop 30, yeah, it drops over 30 feet, basically 30 feet from the front to all the way to the back.
Okay.
So it does have a drop, but it's the grade is approximately 20%. The steepest grade in the back of the property is 20%. So it's under the steep slope guidelines, but however, it is 20% is a steep slope, even though it falls underneath your guidelines for not counting it as area, but it still is a steep slope, and that's the reason why we don't plan on doing any work down towards that area.
Do we have to be concerned about 100-year floods or anything like that?
Well, the drainage will be designed to mitigate the 100-year flood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It'll mitigate the 100-year flood for the increase in runoff.
Okay. Mitigate is not the same as totally prevent from entering this other person's property that backs up on Dexter
Well,
Drive.
basically mitigate ensures that there is no increase in runoff. In other words, whatever runs off the soil now basically will be the same as whatever runs off now will be the same quantity, after construction's completed. But we will make sure that it doesn't increase.
Okay, and there are no water courses along the back of this property at all?
No, there's no courses, no wetlands.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything else, Mr. D'Amico?
No, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those.
I have one.
Well,
little question.
Fred, a couple things before we get on, there is a correction needed on this site plan. It says existing dwellings. They are not existing, they're proposed dwellings. And as is, it says existing well and it is proposed well. And would you also explain, Fred, how parcel A is going to be connected to the city water?
Parcel A, there is a proposed connection. The city water line is out in Soundview Avenue. So the water line goes out to Soundview Avenue for parcel A. However, parcel B is far enough away. It's over the 200-foot minimum. So we propose to put a well on parcel B.
Okay, is
There's
that,
no water in Old Orchard?
There's no water line on Old Orchard. It actually ends prior to going down, even prior to the intersection. So it's only out in the middle of Soundview.
is that proposed well somewhere going to be on parcel B's property where somewhere close where it says existing well, or is that not correct?
It's going to be exact. It's where it says existing well, as Thomas mentioned. I guess I was so confident I put existing dwelling and existing well, but they're supposed to be proposed.
All right, that's all proposed. All right. And were there,
Yeah.
Attorney Thomas, was there ever any buildings on this? Has this always been woods, undeveloped?
I think this was always it was an existing building lot that the client owned for a long time. And what he did is he purchased a portion of the adjoining lot to be able to split it into two.
Right, but there's never been any building on this lot prior to this proposal.
No, I don't think
Okay.
I don't think there ever was a building on this.
Okay. All right. Attorney Thomas, do you have anything?
Nothing further. I think that, there does need to be some corrections to the map to correct it appropriately. Certainly, if you at some point see fit to approve it, there can be the condition that we provide the documentation from the Ogden Valley Health District to your staff, and that also I think that the exact location of the infiltrators would be more appropriate at the time the engineered site plan, which is required for the building permit and required for the final septic approval, that they can be put on at that time. At the time that that's submitted, so you'll have confirmation that the infiltrators are in at that point.
Okay, Mr. Panico, did you have a question?
Yes, I did, about the infiltrators on parcel B. That property slopes dramatically down to the lower rear corner. When that property is developed and that becomes lawn, isn't there going to be an increase in runoff from the lawn versus the undeveloped land? And wouldn't it be more reasonable to put the infiltrators down towards that back corner to intercept as much of that as possible?
We can't, calculations will include any increase in runoff from the lawn also. You're correct. Changing from wooded to lawn does increase the coefficient of impervious enough so that there will be some added flow from both the lawn and the buildings, but primarily the biggest difference is the building and the impervious area of the driveway.
When will we see those calculations, Fred?
At the time of when we do the engineered site plan. And what I'll do is I can put the galleys, we're certainly could put the galleys a little further down to make sure that it catches, so we could drain some of the runoff from the lawn also to it. But
Well, are the galleys going to be put in as part of subdivision improvements, or are they going to be done by the future homeowner?
No.
It'll be done by whoever built the dwelling, whoever actually goes in for the site plan.
Yeah. If the galleys are on the engineered site plan, they would have to be installed prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy as a requirement.
And actually, that's how any lot in Shelton right now is. I've done numerous lots that are in existing subdivisions, and even the subdivisions that did not require galleys on them, the town engineer in zoning requires that we put the galleys, put the calculations on them and put galleys in for every lot. So every new
I'm
house-
more concerned about the reverse situation, Fred. If this is something that's going to be needed, I think your record subdivision submission should reflect it, even though it might not get implemented until individual lots are developed. But we want to make sure it doesn't fall through the cracks, that's all.
Well, again,
My concern,
Everybody-
just a minute, Fred. My concern is this: if it's a condition of approval, you're not going to get a building permit or anything like that. It's not going to fall through the cracks. The only way to fall through the cracks is if staff didn't check out the approvals at the time. But the issue is, if you put it on there and you say this is where it's going to go, then the question is, does it have to be modified if it goes in a different location? For example, I don't know how somebody, and the developer or anybody, would decide to put lawn on a 20% slope. They may decide to leave it potentially wooded. But if the individual,
It isn't wooded today, it's been cleared already.
I think there's still some woods down in this area in this current time. A lot of it's been cleared, but I don't know if it's been cleared all the way down to the end of the slope. But what I'm saying to you is, if it's a condition of approval, then it has to be done before there's a building permit issue.
No, I was just asking that the maps reflect a tentative location of proposed detention galleys.
Mhm.
I could easily show a proposed location.
If you label it tentative, then we know it's going to probably change with the final engineered site plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
could actually-
definitely a good way to go.
Yeah, I could put them in, show them as, possible location or proposed location of galleys.
Yeah, or tentative, or whatever terminology you want to use.
Okay, Attorney Thomas, can you enlarge what's up on the screen, please? Oh, that's much better. Okay, I had a question. What's the grade of where these two lots hit Old Orchard Road? And is there an appropriate grade for the two driveways? And does the city engineer need to look at that?
The driveways are under 10%. I made sure that the driveways were, well, the first 20 feet, 5%, and the steepest part is under 10%. So it falls in the regulation.
No, I
Okay.
think what was being asked is that on the parcel B, your proposed grading lines extend all the way out to the edge of pavement of the Old Orchard Road, which means you're going to be putting some kind of fill somewhere in the right of way of Old Orchard Road, which is a city street.
That's actually, I believe that's a half a foot, that's like a 1/2 a foot cut or a 1 foot cut to get the grade, and then the rest is a fill going back. So the area that's in the right of way is it's only changes by 1 foot.
Well, it still should require clearance by the city engineer. It's in the roadway right of way.
Yes,
Any
and that's
modification
why.
in the roadway right of way needs to be clear to engineering.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you have to get a driveway permit. So
Okay,
for any driveway, anytime you have to get a driveway permit. So that would be part of, when you submit it, then Rimis now signs off on the driveway. That's part of the approval process.
as long as we're sure that if need be, you can make all the grading modifications occur within the property.
Yes, and again, that will show up, all that will be shown up in depth on the individual engineered site plan.
I don't anticipate it being a problem. It's only a matter of the input from the city engineer being important.
Yes, and he does review the site plans.
Mhm. Okay, is there anything else, Attorney Thomas or Mr. D'Amico?
No, I have nothing.
No,
Okay, any commissioners have any questions for the applicant?
No, I think you've covered it. Yeah,
Okay.
you and Tony.
Okay, well, seeing that we've heard the concerns of the public, we've heard the presentation, there doesn't seem to be any questions from any of the commissioners. Mr. Pianico, are you pretty much set on this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Rossetti, do you have any comments?
No, I think they've all been addressed.
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion to either continue or close the public hearing for this application 21-14?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing for 2114.
Okay,
I'll
there's a
second it.
motion from Commissioner Mato, seconded by Commissioner Kelly to close the public hearing for 2114. I'll do a roll call vote on that motion to close. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Mato,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Okay. Mr. Rossetti, did you prepare anything to act on this tonight?
No. We just thought that we would be able to address that under old business at the regular meeting.
Okay,
And just kind of wait for any little corrections to be made, and then we can have everything all buttoned up for August.
okay, so you'll be scheduling this application to be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting for discussion and possible action then.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to the next public hearing, which is initiation of application 21-17 Daybreak Ridge LLC, care of Dominic Thomas, 85 River Road. Petition for modification of approved special exception application, number 1906. Commissioner Amato, can you read that legal notice, please?
For initiation of application 21-17 Daybreak Ridge LLC, care of Dominic Thomas, 85 River Road, assessors map 94, lots 89, 91, and 92. Petition for a modification of approved special exception application 19-06 for 34 townhouse units in a R3 zone for an additional 2 units in Building D for a total of 36 units. The site is generally bounded as follows: northerly by open space owned by the city of Shelton, easterly by 115-131 River Road, southerly by 137 River Road, and westerly by 200 Grove Street. This modification recognizes the existing residential zoning and approved special exception application. Shelton zoning regulations, section 33.6.2, and the bulk standards in Schedule B for an R3 zone would permit 36 units on the property. The plans titled Daybreak Ridge Townhouse Development were prepared by Rose Tizo and Company architects, surveyors, and engineers. All supporting material is on file in the Planning and Zoning Office and available online.
Thank you, Commissioner Amato. This application was accepted for review on July 13th, 2021. A public hearing was scheduled today by staff. Special exception application, modified statement of use, and revised site plans for this application were posted to the city's website. Mr. Rossetti, any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Attorney Thomas, you are also representing this applicant?
Yes, I am Attorney Dominic Thomas, Conan Thomas, 315 Main Street, Dearborn, Connecticut, representing Daybreak Ridge LLC. A couple of housekeeping measures. Number one, the notices to all of the required abutters within the 200-foot range, and the certificate of mailings and the posting and the photos of the posting of the sign were submitted by to the planning and zoning staff, and PDFs of all of those were submitted. I will report to you that I received one phone call from one member of the public who just asked me what was being done. I responded to him and he said, "Thank you very much," and that was it. The other thing is just to inform you that the original Special exception was issued in the name of Key Development. As a result of financing of the property, a separate LLC was set up, Daybreak Ridge LLC. So Daybreak Ridge is the owner of the property. At the current time, Key Development is still the developer of the project, but the application for a special exception must be in the name of the property owner. In December of 2019, you approved a special exception for 34 units. Under your zoning regulations, Schedule B and Section 33.6.2, the standards, bulk standards permit 36 dwelling units. At the time of the action that was taken, which was of course after the close of the public hearing, there was a lot of discussion about the plans, and the client was facing a situation where they had to, the client had to complete the purchase of the property and the financing of the property. And there were issues being raised constantly by the commission members for about 2 units. I'm just making an assumption that it was related to potentially the rock cut and the severity of the rock cut and the proximity of it, or whatever the circumstances were. So at that time, the client accepted the 34, reducing 2 of the units that he would be entitled to was, under the special exception, matter of right of computation. At that point, he went on to begin the development, and I believe, and hopefully so, that Manny Silva is present, because I can't see all the participants. So
Before we get to that, Attorney Thomas, just a minor clarification. There was discussion during one of the several public hearings on that original proposal, and it involved a possible solution of that building size in question. And it was not the commission that took out the units, but rather the applicant reduced his proposal by 2 units in order to alleviate some of the commission's concerns at that time.
right, and that being the case, that was just to the applicant agreeing to accept that because of the discussions of the commission. It was apparent to the applicant that the 36 units, that there were issues with it, and he needed the approval. It's similar to a situation if you were doing a subdivision or a re-subdivision, and the commission had some concerns about the number of lots. The applicant makes a decision, well, at this point, I'll accept the reduced number of lots. But in no event was he giving up his right under the bulk standards to come back and show that he was complying with the standards.
The only point I was making was that the reduction from 36 to 34 was proposed by the applicant. We did not request it.
Well,
Commissioner Harder.
Okay. Commissioner Kelly, I would recognize you, but Commissioner Panico, do you want to finish your comment?
No, that's all I wanted to distinguish. It wasn't a case of the commission taking an application, hearing it, closing the hearing, deliberating it, and then in its decision, reducing 2 units.
Okay.
Contrary to that, the applicant reduced his application during the public hearing process.
Okay.
With all due respect, Attorney Thomas, I have to agree with Mr. Panico. That's exactly what happened. One of the commissioners indicated that Building D had too many units in it. And no matter if it approached the stone wall or the stone shelf or whatever, there was too many units, and he did agree at the time to eliminate 2 to break it all up.
Right. And I again, in response to commissioners expressing concern with the size of the building, but in no way, even doing that, does he give up the opportunity to come back in, because this is not a zone change. This is not a PDD. This is not something that got established. The approval was for less lots. And as I was about to say, in a subdivision situation, which again is also a matter of right, and if it's a re-subdivision subject to certain other standards, to prove that he complies with the standards for those extra units, contrary to what would happen if it was in a PDD and part of the statement of uses and standards. In this case, as you can see in my statement of use, I've addressed the issue, and Engineer Manny Silva is about to explain to you that, in fact, whereas one of the factors that was considered in this is that the fact that the severity of the rock cut and the ability to slope and create a more open look in the back was able to be achieved when, in fact, and I don't want to overstep my bounds about engineering, but when in fact there was less rock cut and more removal of overburden, which we will address. So we think there's also a physical reason for it. In addition to that, we believe that to be compliant, that in compliant, and I have submitted today for the record the several documents that were in the original hearing. One I submitted for the record was the traffic report, which was done based on the 36 units and is a pre-COVID traffic report, and indicates that there's no adverse traffic impacts. Second of all, during the course of the original presentation, your engineer reviewed this site with respect to 36 units and addressed concerns, and those concerns were all addressed and in a response by Rose Tizo and Engineer Manny Silva to each of those concerns. And those concerns were presented, and there was no issue with the number of units or that the extra units having an impact with respect to that. So in effect, those were, which we have did it because I think they're relevant for your considerations. Finally, a document submitted at the time, which is still relevant, which is a document analyzing your considerations as a commission. And I don't know if Alex can put it up or if he wants me to share with it. Briefly, yeah, this is the document. It was an exhibit and presented at the initial hearing. And as you can see, you have certain considerations in your regulation, and your regulation is the size and intensity of the approach unit. And it was pointed out that it is much less impact. Your standards for these units is much less impact than an R3 single family. It meets the Schedule B standards. There was a zone chart on the map, which is still on it, and the gross case creates substantial preserved area and has inland wetlands approval, which still is in existence. The effect on the proposed use and comprehensive plan, well, that's easy. It's a permitted use by special exception, and there are not many large parcels. If you review your R3 zones, that was presented, and that evidence was presented at the time. The
Attorney Thomas, who prepared this sheet? The answers, the ones in red?
I did.
Okay.
This was an exhibit at the original public hearing back in 2019.
Okay.
The traffic report verifies that there is no problems with the traffic and there was no contradictory evidence. I don't think there would be any contradictory evidence to that traffic report. Adverse effect on property values, there's no evidence of adverse effect. It's qualitative evidence, but have a positive effect. But also, I think you have to go back to the issue that it has less, it preserves a lot of open space, especially in the back area of this parcel. Instead of having it developed for single family lots, it preserves open space and therefore enhances the value of those residential parcel. Whoops.
Commissioner Harger.
Okay, hold on a second, Commissioner Kelly. Commissioner, Attorney Panico, do you want to
Attorney Thomas.
Attorney Thomas, I'm sorry. Attorney Thomas.
I just was finishing the last couple that I think that we comply with all of them. And with that, I was going to turn it over to Manny Silva to be able to explain the issues with relationship to the changes in the site work that were.
All right, before you do so, let's see what Commissioner Kelly wanted to say, please.
Well, I just wanted to know where the more space is.
That turning it over to attorney,
Okay, thank you.
to the engineer at this point.
All right.
A question I have at this point is, do you have a copy of the site plan for what we approved from the previous application to compare it to what you're proposing now? Because what I'm feeling is that what you have in green are they the two additional ones?
I believe so. I think that your staff is sharing the site plan, so I don't know if they have, I certainly have I believe I have the approved site plan, and Manny Silva may have it. I have it in my system. I could hunt it up.
Okay,
Manny is sharing his screen.
but the one that is up with the two blocks in green, that indicates what was to be added.
Manny, are you there?
Is Manny on mute?
Yeah, yes, can you
Okay.
guys hear me now? Can you guys hear?
We can hear you. I think we can hear you now, Manny.
Okay, very good. So yes, the green block here is where we took out the 2 units and then we contracted the building so to have 1, 2, 3, 4 units instead of the 6. I kind of slid everything a little by these 2 units over to the to this direction here. So what Attorney Dominic Thomas was trying to illustrate was that this is like an open space development, basically, where we clustered all the units here, but then you have this is the property line here, right along here.
Right.
So what you have is all this open space out here, right? And then you have the units, which the special case exception regulations allow for you to cluster units basically in one area, kind of indirectly to be kind of a conservation type of zone where you have open space and then you have the units just in one location.
Okay.
So what
of the terrain for the area that you said would be lower on the map?
Sure. So what happened was as we were excavating out this area here, what you can see is we have a cross section through this area. There was much more overburden here in this area here, so we were able to batter back this slope much further than was shown on the plans. And then this is the area right, as you can see here. I'll zoom in so you can see a little better. This is the cross section line right here of where I did the section showing the difference in the sloping. So the concern at the time was that there would be a vertical wall too close to the buildings. And so what we have is now, you can see that now the grade originally was going to come like this, and then we were going to batter it. We're going to have these jig jogs in it so that any kind of falling rock would get caught. But we're able to now start with the grade right at the second floor, right where the decks would be. And then we have this, basically our rock drain here, our face drain here with that has boulders on here so that anything gets trapped in here that comes off of the slope. And then that basically was cut back further, and this was surveyed on April 20th. And you could see that it batters back quite a bit so that more natural light comes in, and it's nowhere near what a vertical cut that was, I guess, the commission was concerned about.
Yeah, I remember that being the case. The thing is, I'm not an engineer, but just looking at this, the original stepping of the slope would mean that anything that's loose would like sort of bounce down the steps. But now it looks like you got something that you can have something roll down and have quite a bit of momentum by the time it gets to the bottom.
Right.
So it can be
So that's
contained.
why we have this kind of, I don't know if obviously
It's
this
like a
was
trench.
Yeah, we have a trench here in the base of that slope that collects rainwater and also would collect any kind of material that's coming off of here, any kind of rocks, pebbles of that nature. And I don't know if you remember, but one thing that the commission wanted us to do was to dress up this upper side of the trench with
Mhm.
just large stones,
Mhm.
large rocks, so that it would delineate basically this catchment area, and also would stop anything, as you said, out of here.
Are you
Commissioner
sure you're
Harder.
only unearthing pebbles and rocks and not boulders?
Have we been unearthing
Yeah.
anything? No, it's pretty, I mean, the overburden obviously has some loose rock, which is up here. And that's why we were able to cut it back so far. But the actual rock itself is pretty solid. It holds together. Again, where we found the most overburden was in this area here, near these units. And then there were some here. So this here is really cut back. I mean, it's cut back. The slope is laid back much further away than originally was. So that due to the fact that soil there was more soil that we encountered than actual rock.
Yeah.
And here.
It would have been nice to have like a drone photo of what is actually existing on that site right now.
Right.
We can't
Commissioner
really
Harder.
go up in an airplane and look. So, and was it Commissioner Kelly or was it Mr. Panico that wanted to comment?
I did.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kelly.
What is the height from the grade level you show here to the top?
From the trench up to the top?
Yeah,
Okay.
So it was, the top is, come on, let me just, it's a lot easier.
the top hasn't changed. Am I correct?
Correct. The top is at the same elevation. So
Right.
what changed?
The angle.
It's the slope.
So-
Yeah, what?
So it was, right? We were coming from here basically to, 1 minute here. I know you guys are not used to seeing the CAD drawings, but it's the easiest way for me to do it.
Fine.
So it was around, what did I say, 60 feet before, and now it's going to be, what it is right now is it's coming off of this deck, and then we're gonna come up here to about 52.
So it's 8 feet difference. How do you get the 8 feet? Because of the difference in the slope of the angle?
Right, the difference in the slope of the angle and.
All
as
right,
you-
but
You're
in
measuring
all due
from
respect,
the first floor level, not
can
the
still-
bottom.
you're right. In all due respect, you can still get a rock slide coming down. Now from the house or from the dwelling to the start of the slope, it's still the same amount of footage as it was before. Am I correct?
Correct, it's around 25 feet. That's the minimum. So
All right,
they
now,
can be a little,
all right, now, you also mentioned on the plot plan, all the land up on top, this here, that's open.
right.
I mean, it's kind of useless. You can't get up there to do anything.
It's not, I mean, it's definitely hikeable. You can get up there and,
With
walk
what,
around.
a rope?
No,
Well,
and
I
you
would say
can't,
open space is not necessarily for human recreation.
Yeah, I know that, but still,
I'm perfectly happy with it being inaccessible, frankly.
Elaine, I understand
Yeah.
that, but don't say it's all open and nicey nice when it really it isn't,
wood is.
Well, let me interject something here. The problem is, and this is a big fault of a lot of, when you're talking about open space, you've got to categorize the open space. And one of the problems is if towns consistently look for open space as active open space, you then make a mistake of not preserving ridge lines, forested areas, and other areas that they want preserved without having public access. And this, I think, is one of the poster children for a situation where you have a ridge line and a forested area leading up to a stream and leading up to another area that you would not want to be developed. by R3 where it was developed, or you would not want the open space to be active open space. This
Okay.
is preserved.
Let me just say something also. On the building that we're talking about on this, originally with the rock was stepped up. Now it's a slope. Actually, the only difference is it's a slope instead of a step. I mean, still it's about the same thing it was before. And the concern was of the amount of distance between the dwelling and the wall. And it's still the same concern as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the trench
That
is
we had
being moved
before.
back,
We're just adding the 2 more units,
and the
Right.
trench
And
is
you're right,
not
Attorney.
being moved
You're
back.
right, Attorney Thomas. According to what the R3 is, you're allowed to 36. It's 36.03 if you want to be exact. But still, it was the applicant that said, okay, I'll omit 2 and we'll go that way. And I'm just going to leave it that way.
Right. Well, I mean, I certainly suggest, that if you have a question about that issue and the matter of right, you can certainly ask your own counsel. I mean, the fact of the matter is that in a special exception, the reason I presented the fact, you have your standards.
Okay, we do have our
standards.
standards, but it says you don't have to go to the exact point of the standard either. It can be less. That's in our regs too.
Not, well, okay, this is why I think you would have, you should potentially maybe seek legal counsel if that's the case. These are the standards before acting on a special exception. The difference between a special exception and a site plan matter of right is that both are matter of right under the zoning standards, except that under this special exception requirement, you have the ability to discuss these situations. In that situation, and again, I'll just explain it, that the fact of the matter is there were commission members who were indicating that the building was too big and they were not going to be able to do it. So the client at that point has 2 choices, especially if you have to purchase the property and proceed with financing. And that is to say, I'm entitled to 36, but at this point I'll accept the 34, that's fine. And I'll reduce the 2 units in order to get the approval. You're not necessarily giving up. There was no basis for the reduction. And as a matter of fact, when you look at here and you look at, the fact there was concern about falling rock. And if I remember correctly, there was an elaborate and detailed presentation by Mr. Silva about the type of rock and the type of rock cut. And I will tell you that for those of you that can consider the inside joke, Mr. Silva was not one of the engineers who designed the Space Shuttle Columbia. So, the fact of the matter is, I think he was making an appropriate presentation for it. But when we get out in the exact field conditions, we are laying it back even farther, creating it more open, and also having a protective measure at the bottom that is the equivalent, if not greater, than the protective measures that we're taking at the other time. And that's what the engineer is presenting. So it is the right of this commission to certainly, number one, have it reviewed by your engineering department. And your engineering department did review the plan back then and found no problem with it, no problem with that. And Manny can comment on the comparative protections of both. But second of all, we comply with all the standards. So, I mean, you certainly have the right to seek opinions from your staff with respect to the legal ability. But, what I was trying to do before was also equate it to a subdivision. It's the same thing. A developer can agree to take less lots, but that doesn't prevent them from coming back in at a later time, as long as it's a matter of right and as long as all the standards, health, safety, and welfare are complied with. To ask.
When we asked for a reduction, wasn't there a new drawing put out with a revision?
Yes, course.
showing
There had
it?
to be.
So isn't that kind of giving up what you had? And then now you're
It was-
coming
it
back
was
and doing
reducing-
the opposite, am I
it was-
correct?
It was reducing it to get an
Yeah,
approval.
you
in the
had a drawing
circumstances
with a
and responded.
revision, and that's what
I-
was
I-
approved on.
Right. I think
Okay.
that, and I want to distinguish it here. If this was a PDD, if this was a planned development district, and the applicant then and this was being done by a PDD, and the applicant then reduced the 2 units, and because of PDD, you're wearing your legislative hat, and the concept plan reduced it, that becomes the zone. That becomes the zone. So in a special exception situation, the bulk standards regulations are still there. The person has the ability to get this density in a special exception as long as they comply with these standards. It's not a situation where, the commission, I mean, theoretically, yes, he could have said, but you have to understand the reality of the situation. Could have said, go ahead, approve it with less, and I'll appeal and I'll win. But that's not the goal of somebody. In some situation here, he chose to take a different tack based on the comments of the commissioners, submit a site plan, but you didn't change your regulations in the meantime. You didn't reduce the density. So now he can come back, but he's still got to comply with the same standards. And what we're saying is, we believe that field conditions addressed some of the concerns and some of the issues, and he feels that it is appropriate to add those 2 extra units. Whether it's 4 units or 6 units, it is still has the issues with the rock cut. And the purpose of the rock cut is because you're doing a cluster subdivision. And there was this situation of all around you had this big cut. Well, it's been substantially reduced even in other areas on it. So all he's doing is coming back and saying, oh, now at this point, I believe I can comply with all the standards and get the other 2 lots. And, again, it's certainly a situation, if you are concerned with that, presentation and that explanation, you have the right to go to your counsel and say, well, what about this situation? It's different than the PDD, where the applicant reduces the number of units or reduces the size of a commercial building, and then that becomes part of the statement of uses and standards. That's
I have a
all.
question for Mr. De Silva. Mr. De Silva, which sheet on the site plan set, that I think is like 9 pages, which shows how the site looks today with the grading and the clearing and the site work?
SP1.
SP1 shows the site plan, but then the grading is on SP3B, and then that last section is the very last page, plan and profile 3. And then you could see that even in here, the other units, which I said was even better because there was more overburden, you can see here's the original rock cut that we did, and then you can see that it's just like a slope that comes up off of the unit now.
But that's how close the applicant intends to have the slope be that close to a deck?
Well, the deck will no longer, it'll be on grade. This will be just backfilled behind here, and then you'll have a slope that you could easily walk up on this set of units here. Now, I want to be clear.
Well, that doesn't make sense, Mr. Silva, having that slope change from the step to the roll down the hill, is whatever you want to call it, so close. That doesn't make sense to me.
So that's here, right?
Where does that occur?
That's this here, right?
Not the units.
And then this one up here is the one that's 25 feet away, and then we cut it back because this is deeper, and that occurs here.
Okay, now
That's building D.
right now behind building D, why wasn't the trench moved back further?
We left it here.
Yeah,
we
why
want-
wasn't that moved back?
Is it a
Close.
slope?
Because we still want to have that protection in case something comes down off of this to have.
I'm not saying eliminate the slope, but are you leaving that trench in that particular location for any special reason specifically?
I would like to have any material coming off the slope or rainwater to be 25 feet away from the building.
So you
We
don't
could
feel
put
that
that on the
moving
other
it back to like 40 or 50 feet? So it's more in line with the top of the slope is a
It's more
practical?
blasting at that point.
Okay, so that's, this is the area that's been blasted?
Yes, this has already been, if you, right there today, this is the grade line that's out there today.
Okay. One of the things is if that trench for some reason had been moved back at some point, there would be a larger yard in the back. I don't know if that's like an attractive nuisance almost, that you would have more of an area for people to congregate and be there if something should roll down the hill and doesn't quite make it into the trench. Into what are you referring to the trench as? Some kind of containment?
Well, we call it, I mean, we're calling it a tow drain. But really it's an area that, there's a detail that kind of shows a little better here.
Yeah, no, I just went with the overall name for that kind of method to contain.
So it's called to be technical, it's called a rock trap ditch. I mean, that's where, and then we had the 2-foot berm made with boulders. Here on
Okay.
that. And you can see if this was solid rock, we would just bench it like this vertically.
Mhm.
But we don't have that situation. We actually ran into a lot of this right here, this overburden slope.
Yep.
So the overburden slope came further down, right? So
Yep.
that's why,
you have the angle.
correct, like this,
Okay.
parallel to that, right?
How deep is that trench? Feet?
It is 4 feet deep and 3 feet wide.
Any chance of somebody falling into it?
That's why we wanted to put this 2-foot berm with made up boulders on the one side of it, so that no one could delineate it, basically.
Is there any landscaping planned for it other than a berm?
We do have some landscaping along the back there. Let me just pull it up. So we have these evergreens basically planted at the base of the slope, which are, to be specific, are arborvitaes.
Okay, how far apart are they going to be? Are they planned?
Well, we want to create a hedge, so you don't want to put them too close. So between 10 and 15 feet, they should grow in a couple of years and hedge together.
Mhm.
Those, as graphically, they're shown more than 10, 15 feet.
Right, but the intent is to hedge these together to make a
Right,
hedge.
but wait, is there anything low and close to the ground that you're planning to sort of impede somebody from walking up the berm?
Well,
I mean, it's going to be, like I said in the detail, we're going to make it with rock boulders and then infill between the boulders.
Mhm.
It's going to be, you're going to have to climb the boulders.
Yeah, I could just see some kids doing that.
Yeah.
So,
Do a lot of,
is there anything similar to this existing somewhere in the area? That kind of treatment?
try to think in the area.
Well, there are rock trenches along, if you ride along the highways, so very oftentimes, I'm not sure if it's along the big rock cuts, but I think you have some areas even along Route 8 that have swales on the bottom. Some of them have grown in, but they do it very often in the state. Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Commissioner
Around
Roger.
12,
All right,
Rob-
Commissioner
12 and
Kelly?
Yeah, the trench you're talking about, what is the width of that trench?
3 feet.
And the depth is 4 feet.
Yep.
Correct.
With the 2-foot high berm with boulders above it.
Yeah, but 2 foot high is not a lot. A child could climb over that and then dump himself into that trench.
Right.
So the 2 foot,
What-
2
what-
foot berm, but the boulders would be bigger than 2 feet.
Pardon me?
So the 2 foot berm is the earth part of it,
You're right.
but then the boulders could be possibly much bigger than that.
The boulders above the berm.
So the berm is in between the boulders.
Well, where does it show that?
well, I didn't show a boulder, but, you know, the boulder would be something like this, you know, in here. And then the berm would be in between, you know, so because the
Oh,
boulder,
so basically what, you really don't have 25 feet in the back, do you?
we
From-
do.
from the-
It's
I
to
mean, from the building to whatever usable area you have, what do you have, 20 feet?
I mean, it's 20, yeah, hold on, let me just dimension this. From the edge of the deck to that, it's like 15, because
15 feet,
yeah, because the width of that, or the width of that, that trap is coming out of that 25.
right. Now, the other one that you showed and Commissioner Harger said about you said the patio or whatever is not going to be there, or it is going to be there?
Going
Where
from
the
a
slope-
beyond grade, basically what's gonna happen.
Could you repeat that, please?
It's going from a deck that was above, up in the air,
Yeah.
Right.
to being on grade.
Wait a second,
Well,
let's
where's
clarify something. What are we talking, are we talking about the buildings that are not involved in this application or the building that is involved?
Well,
in this-
right now, we're talking about the ones not involved.
Not,
Right.
okay, fine. I want to make sure that Manny knows what the one.
Yeah, he
not involved,
does.
So that's
He
not
does.
there. Okay, right, right.
He does.
Yeah, so this here is going to
Oh,
be,
okay. I see what you're doing.
but instead of being, you know, it's gonna come here and then up, versus, there's no reason to
There'll be no flat.
triangle here, right?
Right. Okay.
And that's
Thank you.
because the slope flattened enough where we can do that.
All right.
What is the degree of slope on section AA?
AA, which is up here. Let me just see.
And this is representation of building D.
Correct.
Okay.
That's 2.
Like about 2-on-1.
Yeah, 2 on, correct. So it went from, you know, something less, you know, less than 1-on-1 to 2-on-1.
2-to-1.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Which
Well, it's
for
similar
the lay people on this commission means what?
It means that it possibly could grow grass,
Oh,
but
okay.
I doubt so. So it's kind of similar to what happened at exit 12 on the highway, where the state cut back the slope
Mm-hmm,
and then built a ditch at the base.
mm-hmm.
Now you could actually, before it was just rock, right? That nothing could grow on it. I mean, it was, you know, it was vertical, and now there's like grass growing on it. It's flat enough where vegetation can grow on it.
Oh, yeah, there's things that take root. There's a lot of weeds and vines and shrubbery and whatever. So,
Right.
yeah, that takes a while though. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, the bad stuff doesn't take any time at all.
Never.
So, yeah, so my objection to this wall situation initially was more aesthetic than safety, because I don't feel like I'm qualified to make any kind of judgment on the safety of this. And I assume that we have engineers, city engineers, who will be weighing in on the engineering part of it. But to me, it's just not, I thought it was just not an attractive situation, and would not necessarily lend to a successful project. If it is a matter of right, then perhaps we really do want to have that verified by
Mhm.
our council.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Tinky, did you want to make any comments?
Well, I agree with the comments that Commissioner Matto just made. I remember when we took this up, the first time we had a lot of conversations about the size and the density, and that's how we all arrived to the 34 units. So
Mhm.
be open to having more conversations then with council on how we go forward with this. On one of the graphics that was shown that has the slope directly coming into the back deck is a concern. I mean, I can see somebody attempting to walk up what would be a slope because they think they can get up to the higher level. And everything that I recall from the public hearings was that it was going to be staggered, but that it was going to be separate, and really there wouldn't be access up to the higher plane because of the topography, the wildlife, and so there's some concern with some of the sloping that I've seen. And there's that one slide, I'm not sure if we can find it. It wasn't that one. That one. I mean, are you not going to hop over the fence and begin to walk up to the higher plane? So that's new information for me, because in the past we had it set back and we had it such that you would not be able to get up to the higher plane.
Attorney Thomas, is the all the area that we were referring to as open space, is that going to be deeded to the city?
No.
Okay,
No, it's a conservation easement.
it's a conservation easement. Okay.
I believe, yes.
Reminder. Okay, only because I was just wondering about the liability for the city. Okay, yeah, so the onus is going to be on the property owner if there should be any injuries or something.
Correct, yes, it is. And it's becoming a much more favored version of open space, unless it's some sort of open space that is required to be connectable in some fashion and required to be active. In more cases now, conservation easements and leaving stuff in its natural state is the preferred way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Is this backing up to Owl Hill? Is that,
Excuse me, to what?
this is to the Owl Hill area? Is that where this
Oh, no,
backs
no,
up?
that's-
No.
This is
No,
across
the-
from Bangin Restaurant on River Road.
No, I mean the cliff side, the back side, the open
No,
space
it's
side.
Judson Drive. What is it? Judson Drive or
Jennifer,
and Richard Boulevard. I remember the Grove Street.
Belmont.
Jennifer
Okay.
Jennifer Court.
Yeah, okay, Jennifer Court. So if we've created a cliff for people up at that end, that's already done. But I mean, we've talked about the safety and people falling into a 4-foot trench, but now they can fall down a giant hill from the top.
Yeah, this isn't going to be clear cut, that's for sure. I don't think there's any plans to do that.
No, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
I mean, you're gonna have this woods here.
that's happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's done.
Now, this is somewhat similar to the neighborhood adjacent to us, and actually for on my street, if you go 3 or 4 lots down and across the street, you're on top of the hill that goes down to Leavenworth Road. That's
Yeah.
where the entrance to Indian Well is.
Yeah, there's a lot of extremes in town. I mean, it's a extremely hilly town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also similar to what's behind Sensible Heights. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think any of the seniors go walking in the woods, that's for sure. But I think
Mm.
people get a different idea of when they talk about this is going to be all open space. This is not a meadow. And I think that's what the picture has. That is in a lot of persons' minds, that this is going to be, oh, this is going to be a meadow. And it's not. This is woods on a hill.
Yeah, leave it be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it'll be where the deer and the antelope play.
Yeah.
And the
At one time, the building with the proposed 2 additional units, wasn't that one long?
It was
long
one
building?
long building. It was.
So it's still not, which is, I think, preferable. We had quite a bit of discussion about that.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, I think it was a 12, the 2 buildings were 12 units connected.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking for that. What about the parking requirements, Attorney Thomas? How are we doing with that?
Good question.
It complies with the, well, Manny, can you address the?
Yeah, so we have 84 required and we have total of 84 proposed. We have 44 garage spaces and 36 visitor spaces.
Mhm. Okay. And then has the fire marshal looked at this revision with the 2 additional units?
Yeah, I mean, he has, and it's basically similar. The only difference is that, see this turnaround here is still here?
Mhm.
And it's just got scooched over by the width of these 2 units, but otherwise it's exactly the same.
The driveway that says fire truck turnaround, that was moved
Yeah, it was scooched over
to
the
the,
width of these 2 units.
yeah, okay. All right, Mr. Rossetti, do we have anything in writing from the fire marshal about this?
No, I mean, the plan is, I mean, it's obviously changed the width of whatever that is, 40 feet, but I can certainly ask him to provide something, but the design and the layout has not changed. That would impact their services.
Okay. All right, Attorney Thomas, do you or Mr. De Silva have anything further to add?
No, just pointing out that the documents that I submitted today, which were exhibits in the original one, be incorporated into the record.
Okay, all right. So those weren't posted.
And by the way, if you want, I did not do this, but if you want, you can also incorporate the fire marshal report from 2019 into the record. I didn't have a copy of it because I became involved a little after the beginning of the application process. So Mr. Manny Silva provided me with the engineer's report incorporated into their response, but you can also incorporate if you wish, the fire marshal's report.
Okay.
And I sent him the traffic report from there too.
All right, well, it would seem that unless any commissioner has any further comments, questions, or concerns, and there's nothing else further from the applicant, it may be prudent to continue the public hearing so that we can make sure everything that was submitted today gets posted and the commissioners have the ability to review them. And also we get some information from the fire marshal, and also that staff can ask attorney corporation counsel to clarify the issue of standards.
Madam Chair, what are you looking for from the fire marshal?
Confirmation that he has looked at the layout that shows the 2 additional units and it is sufficient for his fire apparatus.
Okay, I can tell you that he has, but I'm assuming you'd like that in writing then? Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, I don't want to go by hearsay.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
when the applicant put up the cross-section showing the revised slope in the other part of the site, yes, that lower one, I sensed from a couple of the commissioners that they do not want that. Should we share something with the applicant as to what he should do? Do you want him to retain what was originally contemplated or what?
This is Commissioner Ticky, since I raised it, in that situation, what we originally contemplated and talked to some experts might be better suited than, it seems it's connected to the deck and then it is a immediate slope up. So I would be interested to see what's been done in other situations like this, but I think there was a reason why we had such a setback, because we were conscious of rock falling and that we had the staggered wall so that it could catch some of the rock. And again, so it was set back as families are in their backyard. I mean, in this case, they lose a backyard and it's immediate slope up to the upper plane, which I don't think is what we ever had signed on to in the original plans.
Now, could you bring that cross-section back up again? Right above it, you have the, no, I'm sorry, that was the one you had. Excuse me. Can you go back to what?
Want this one?
Yes. Is it possible to have a compromise wherein you go partway up that slope and put in a bench?
Correct. Yeah, I'm just showing what the slopes were as of April 20th.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have to do our benching here. So we still do what shows in the details, which is a little bit cutbacks here, kind of to sawtooth this so that if anything does fall, gets caught on the way. So what I'm representing here is what the rock slope was when we shot it on April 20th.
Mhm.
And same thing here. So these can be, these can certainly be cut back. You know, we can flatten this and then make it come up like this, like we showed before. But it's going to come off of here, and it's going to be it's not going to be as tall.
Manny, go back to the other cross section.
Sure.
When you spoke of that, you said that the upper part of that slope was really like overburdened. It was not
Yeah.
really rock.
There's more overburden up here than.
Is it sufficient that it would support vegetation?
It could, yes.
Could you put in a bench that was able to accommodate some tree planting so as to begin to stretch the vegetation that's up on top?
Yeah, we just so you know, the top of slope would then go further back, but it's possible.
Now, Mr. Silva,
I'm
go
not,
ahead.
you know, I guess what I'm saying is the whole length of that slope that you would be looking at, primarily rock, is pretty extensive then. It's probably what, 40 to 50 feet? And I thought if we could introduce some sort of vegetation halfway, two-thirds of the way up.
Yeah, yeah. You mean like put a tree like?
Yeah,
Okay.
an occasional tree. Doesn't have to be a full hedgerow, but an occasional tree.
I mean,
will it grow? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Okay, well, I don't want to see it happen if you don't think it's going to survive.
No, yeah,
trees do grow out of rock, but not very well.
No,
No.
you're right.
yeah. Mr. Silva, can you
I thought
just,
if that overburden was loose enough, it might survive, but.
well, there's got to be some other kind of shrubbery that would be maybe more appropriate.
Like there are some low growing shrubberies that could be put in that would probably grow. Yes.
Yeah. Mr. Silva, can you just verify one more time? What was the reason for the change from the stepping kind of cut?
There's no change. It's just that right now that's what it is, and we haven't
Okay.
I was representing what was there already on the 20th.
So the stepping is still going to be done, but it's going to be more of a angle.
It's gonna be-
Would you
Since the
contemplate
public,
any
since the
change
public hearing is going
based
to
on
be
the
kept,
discussion you heard tonight?
excuse me?
I was asking the engineer if he would contemplate any changes based on the discussion that he heard tonight.
I mean, I would keep this and bench it back, and then maybe put some shrubs in there if we can get them in. And then over here, this would be kind of like this, right? And we'd have the trench up here instead, and then the slope would go, like that, or like this, and then it would have the sawtooth all the way up.
That's better than what you have there.
Yeah, would you like us, because the public hearing is going to be kept open, rather than try to design it in the middle of this public hearing, would you want him to take the, let's say, take these sections here and discuss with the developer and come up with a proposal to show how with the overburden and everything that's been discovered, how you're going to see the benching with the, as best as possible, show what the final benching would look like and going back up.
Yeah, an updated.
That's exactly right. I think
That would be a good idea.
there's been a lot of give and take with the commissioners about their concerns, what they like, what they don't like. And the engineer indicated that this is simply a representation of what they found after they cleared away above it.
Mhm.
So now somewhere between the two is a proposed solution. So I guess you need to give us what your proposed solution would be.
Mhm. Yeah, I personally would not want to see a slope that ends so close to a deck. And on the, you were drawing red lines, and I would not like to see a trench that's even deeper than what's presented now.
Right. Okay.
Well, it would be the same trench, you just elevated.
Right.
Yeah,
Here.
but the height of it gets me concerned.
Well,
Wow, into it.
I understand, but I think if it's designed and as far as the safety issues and everything like that and what it's done, certainly you can submit it back. You know, you got to remember that your city engineer reviewed the swans. And there really isn't a lot of changes from what he reviewed, and he would have put in there any safety issues that he would have done. But certainly these are, you know, the engineering is being designed to standards. I understand you can be concerned that somebody may not be careful with a child if there are a lot of children in here or anything like that. But it isn't, it's something that's not out of the ordinary for doing it. There are a lot of.
This solution is,
Yeah,
that's out of the ordinary. To
Yeah.
bring the slope down to the edge of the deck is out of the ordinary, Dominic.
right. No, that, I'm not talking about that, but what he's explaining is that that's where the slope is right now. The intention is
Okay.
still to create and bench it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the rock catches at the bottom.
Mhm.
Yeah, the rock catches at the bottom.
Yep. All right, any other comments, questions, or concerns from the commission? Okay, if nothing else further from the applicant, then is there a motion to continue the public hearing for application 2117?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion to continue from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner
Laskos.
Laskos says second. Thank you. And on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Laskos, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Amato?
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Motion is passed 5-0. So staff will schedule the continuation at some point in the future. And in the meantime, we're to getting the more information from the applicant to address our concerns.
Thank you very much, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you. All right, third public hearing on the agenda is application 21-12, 79 Platte Road LLC, care of Chris Russo and Rizzio LLC, petition for amendment of the zoning regulations, Schedule A. Commissioner Amato, could you read the notice, please?
Okay. I'll repeat what you just said. Initiation of application 21-12, 79 Platte Road LLC, care of Chris Russo and Rizzio LLC, petition for amendment of the zoning regulations, Schedule A, permitted uses, line 45. Quote, building contractors, businesses, and storage yards, unquote. This amendment proposes to allow permitted uses, line 45, by special exception application in the 1A2 zone classification. Permitted uses, line 45, is currently prohibited in the 1A2 zone.
Okay. Thank you very much. Just for the record, this application was accepted for review on June 8th, 2021. A public hearing was scheduled by staff for today. The application information page and the letter from the applicant's attorney for this application were posted to the city's website. Mr. Rossetti, were there any comments received from the public that we need to acknowledge for the record?
No.
Okay. And Attorney Russo, I understand you're representing the applicant?
Yes, Chairman. Chris Russo with Russo and Rizzio LLC, with offices in 10 Sasko Hill Road in Fairfield. Though tonight I'm coming from Stratford Town Hall to do a hearing that would normally be in Shelton City Hall. So the beauty of this transition from Zoom to in-person hearings. But good to be before your chair and the commissioners on this text amendment, which again is to permit as a special exception use, building contractor businesses and storage yards in the IA2 zone. Before I get into the kind of meat of this application, I just want to make one point. Because I think there's an aspect of this amendment that may distract from what's actually being asked. And that's with regard to storage yards. And if you just looked at the amendment, it would seem like that we are proposing storage yards in the IA2 zone. But I just wanted to kind of make this point first, and that is that storage yards are actually already permitted in the IA2 zone under section 24.7.3 of the regulations. So that part of it is not asking for something new in the IA2 zone. What we're really asking for tonight is for building contractors' businesses to be allowed in the IA2. And we're proposing this amendment to address what we feel is a clear need in the city. What is that need? That there are many contractors that live and raise their families in Shelton. My client, who's the member of 79 Platt Road LLC, has been a contractor for decades and has lived and raised his family on Kathleen Road in Shelton. His sons are now contractors living in Shelton. One just bought a house on Brownton. And like any contractor, they have their vehicles, they have their supplies, extra plumb fittings, electrical wire, toolboxes, and those things need to be stored somewhere. And I'm sure the commissioners have seen this, and you find this in throughout, other towns and cities too, is that where those things a lot of times end up getting stored is in people's driveways. And because there's not a proper place to store those things, at least in close proximity to people's homes. If we were in City Hall right now, I would be pointing behind me because I know every time I walk out of City Hall to go down the steps, I look at this house that's on Prospect Ave, and I usually almost always see 2 to 3 contractor vehicles parked in that gentleman's driveway. And it just speaks to the need that contractors need a place that is not their home to store things related to their business. A building where they can store their vehicles, they can, a painter could store their buckets and their brushes, that a electrician could store all of his extra wire and any piping that he would need. Just a central location, somewhere that he would leave his home in Shelton, would go to this place nearby in the morning, pick up his pick up his vehicle, pick up his supplies, go out to work, come back, return those, things into the building, and then go home. And not mix the two things together. So if I could start with sharing the screen, I want to pull up the Schedule A permitted uses here. Let's see. Did that come up?
Yes, it did.
Okay, great. Thank you. So this is line 45 of Schedule A, where it talks about building contractors, businesses, and storage yards. You could see the use is not permitted in many zones. And the ones where it is permitted are the Cb1 zone, the Cb2 zone, which are really commercial zones, even though you would tend to think of this use more associated with an industrial zone like the IA2 zone that we're proposing. And that's by site plan. And then it is also permitted in the IB1 and IB2 zones that you could see there in green. Some of these zones, frankly, don't apply to many properties. They're the CB1 zone in particular, and the IB1 zone. The there's only a handful of properties. The IB1 zone is actually a part of a larger property. It's not even the whole property. It's part of a property. So in practical sense, there's not that many locations for this use. And some of the locations are in areas where you wouldn't really expect to find this type of use, particularly Canal Street, where this use would seem to run counter to everything that all the hard work that this commission has done on that street. So I'm just going to show some of these locations so you can understand where these zones actually are, where this use is currently permitted. You can see the CB1 zone here. This is the D'Addario Collision Center that's right off of Bridgeport Avenue.
Mhm. Yeah, behind Big Y.
Yeah, and it's just that property is the CB1 zone. This is another property. This is where the Plaza Diner is. It's actually two properties, Plaza Diners here and the Dunkin' Donuts that's in the rear there of the property that's adjacent that you're all probably familiar with. So it's just those two properties that are in the CB1 zone in this section. And that's it throughout the entire city. Those are the only three properties that are in the CB1 zone. The Cb2 zone, where this use is also permitted subject to site plan review, is located along Bridgeport Ave as you get towards Coram. And then there's also some sections of it that are along Howe Avenue and further up Howe. Again, in sections where you really wouldn't expect to see this type of use, some type of storage building where you would have contractors coming in and out, it certainly goes counter to a lot of the development that's been going on down in that area. Go to this next map. Here's the CB2 zone. Again, this is in this triangle block that is bordered by Constitution, Petremont, and River Road. It's a very visible location. It's where the Riverdale Diner is. There's that large pavement area that's behind Riverdale. Again, particularly on this side of the street, not where you would expect to see something like a contractor storage yard. And then, now this is the IB1 zone. That was it for CB2. The IB1 zone where this use is just permitted as of right. This is the one where it's actually only a portion in the transfer station. And it's just this portion of the property. It's not the entire property. It's just this small portion. And then if I go back to one of my previous maps, the other zone where this is permitted, again, as of right, which is kind of surprising to see in this area, I think, with all the work that's been done in this area is this area of Canal Street and over to Riverdale Ave. And that's where this use right now is permitted. It's not permitted in any of the industrial zones. Mm-hmm. Which in the IA zones, I should say, at least, where frankly, somewhere I would think you would find this type of use. It would seem to be the appropriate area for this type of use. Where it currently is, these uses are permitted either as of right or subject to site plan. They are not subject to special action in any of these zones. And again, they're located in certain aspects and locations where I don't think that type of use would be desirable for the city. So that's why we are proposing this use in the IA2 zone. And again, we think this use is much more in character with the industrial uses that are permitted in this zone rather than the commercial zones. So I wanted to show you where, and I know this commission is familiar where the IA2 zone is, but just to go through those sections of town.
Doesn't hurt to be reminded.
Exactly. So in this, where this IB1 zone is, the one location it's in, along River Road on the eastern side is the IA2 zone. And, you know, it's a zone where you see a lot, or it's an area, I should say, where you see a lot of its storage uses and a lot of industrial uses as well. Another significant portion of the IA2 zone is off of Platt Road and Oliver Terrace here. It runs along Route 8. It's a well-screened area. It's a appropriate location, we think, for this type of use. And then the other area here is where Parrot Drive is. And this is more of a fully developed area. I don't know if this use really would find a home in this section of the IA2 zone. There's not many properties here that I think would cater to this use. I think you would more see in the Platt Road area would certainly be the one that would be more conducive. And, you know, I just wanted to show you these areas to show that this amendment's actually proposing a limited expansion of the possible location of this use. It's not something where if you approve this text amendment, you're all of a sudden going to see, you know, contractors putting their vehicles and their supplies in buildings that are, you know, they're all over. It's really, I think, the Platt Road section and possibly the River Road section where you may see this type of use, and hopefully the commission feels comfortable with those areas. I think they're also more practical areas for this use rather than the CB1 zone, the Cb2 zone, and the IB1 and the IB2. And just to go back to kind of that initial comment regarding outside storage, I have the outside storage regs here because it does say contractor, business, and storage yards, but I just wanted to show that storage yards are already allowed in the IA2, so that's not something new. You can see here in the reg, it says outside storage and includes storage of supplies, machinery, and other materials, you know, which you would expect with you know, that type of use. It allows it in commercial districts, storage yards. So something like the CB1 and the CB2, there's limitations on them. And the limitations are that they cannot extend into areas where the setback is for the street line setback or setback from a residence district. That's actually different than the IA2 zone, where again, it's permitted, but it's also any property line for the IA2 zone, not just the street line or the residence district. So there's actually an additional buffer there in the IA2 zone. And it's also more extensive of a buffer for storage yards than the IB2 zone, where it's just a setback from a residence district.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the standards with regards to setback, I highlight these. So the setback from street line for a storage yard for CB1 is 50. For CB2, it's 40. If I go down here, it's 50 for IA2. It's 50 for IB1 and 50 for IB2. So the setback would still would match I guess it would be the greatest setback that you would find for a storage yard for these contractor businesses.
Attorney Russo, did you just misspeak about the setback for IB2?
Did I misspeak? From
Yeah,
the setback
50,
from street
50,
line is
25.
25. It's 25.
Yeah.
So it's less of a setback from the street line than would be for the IA2.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a misinterpretation that's going on here.
Okay, Mr. Panico, did you want to say something?
Yeah, those provisions that are being referred to under 2473, Those are standards that apply when you want to have outside storage that's associated with a permitted use. It's not outside storage as the use.
Mhm.
Correct.
These
But
are- if you have a bona fide operation, whether it's a commercial operation in a commercial district or an industrial operation in an industrial district, you might have outside storage associated with that permitted use. These are the parameters that regulate where you can put that outside storage that you're otherwise allowed to have.
Mhm.
It's not intended to say that in the industrial IA2 district, these are the standards when the storage is the permitted use, the principal use. That's not the case. It's not the permitted use.
Right, and in this aspect,
What it's associated with.
the contractor businesses would be the principal use, and they're,
If they were allowed in that zone.
correct, and
They're
that's
not
what
allowed in all those zones.
well, that's what we're asking for. We're asking for it to be allowed in the IA2. I just want to show that the IA2 standards for buffering of a storage yard would be significant, and that you wouldn't have to be worried about in the IA2 zone that you would drive down Platte Road and there would be a storage yard right up against the street line or anything like that.
Purpose is valid.
That's the reason I'm bringing it up, because I know storage yards, I know that can be a sensitive topic, and just showing that there's appropriate buffering in the IA2 zone, I believe, for something like that, for outside storage. But, and again, the real crux of this amendment is to permit contractor businesses in the IA2 zone, in an industrial zone where we think that use is more appropriate. And this would be subject to your special exception standards. So this commission would have greater control over that use than it does even in the CB1, CB2, IB1, and IB2 zones. And really be able to make sure that there was appropriate screening, that the intent for my client, what he's looking to do is construct a building that he can locate his contractor vehicles, his contractor supplies, his son's contractor vehicles and supplies, and then there's countless numbers of contractors that he knows that are really desperate for that type of location within Shelton that they can conveniently access, and Route 8's right there, and they can get to a job site from there, bring it back easy, and then be close to home. And that's really the crux of the application. We feel it's a limited expansion of this use into, frankly, what we think is the most appropriate zone for it compared to what it's currently in a way that would be controlled by this commission to its special exception standards, to really make sure that this use didn't have a negative impact on the neighborhoods.
Okay, Attorney Russo, that particular proposed building that you referred to, that is something that's would be a separate action before this commission.
Correct.
Yeah, just to clarify for the record that is not part of this particular agenda item at all. So,
correct. I'm just using that as an example, but yes, it's not a part of this application.
okay. Could you put up the visual that shows the zone on River Road?
Zone on River Road. Yes. Let me see here. Nope.
And instead of having all the nice colors, could you go to the street map? Not down by the landfill, but up further. Where the
You want like a street view of the.
Yeah, you had that before. It showed past where Parker and the medical building is, across from where Pinecrest used to be.
I don't know if I had I can see if I can find it while we're talking.
I thought you had it up before.
I could try pulling it up.
Yeah, it's just, I wanted to ask Mr. Panico, you're familiar with all that property there that's between the marina and Parker Restaurant and that medical building that's down close in the back half of the lot. If, I would think at some point in the future, there would be an upgrade to that, all that property. And,
I believe, in fact, one of the major property owners down in that area has been trying to accumulate parcels
mhm.
in that particular area.
Right, so the fact that it would be by special exception would protect the commission from having to deal with a use being on a piece of property that would be negative towards the abutting property owners.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things the commission's got to think about. The
Okay,
same
that's the
thing would hold
landfill.
true-
Go
the
to
same
the-
thing would hold true with the property up on Parrot Drive.
Mhm.
You want to promote this type of what I would, lack of a better term, refer to as being development of inferior quality than pure industrial development.
Yeah, I think it has its place in town. It's just we have to be very careful where it's proposed for. Attorney
Yeah,
Russo, that's the
indeed.
landfill. Can you head toward down River Road towards Shelton?
I mean, we know that there's a need for that type of support space in town. At one time, several years ago, we approved the planned development district to accommodate that very type of tenant that you're describing. Unfortunately, the builder of the development must have found out that he could get more return from the property and the particular development by renting it to other more related uses, not really
Mhm.
contractor storage yards, which is what it was intended for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing, I mean, obviously, I mean, this goes without saying. I mean, these are already IA2 zones where uses, frankly, much more intense uses can go on these properties.
But the A after the industrial implies a higher quality of development as opposed to the IBs.
Mhm. Any luck, Attorney Russo?
Are you looking for the area by Riverdale Diner? Is that what you're looking for?
Before that,
Before that?
yeah, across from, you're too young to know where.
Just north of the golf driving range.
I used to go to Pine Creek. Oh, you mean where like Crescent Village in that area?
Yeah, right across the street.
Across from Crescent Village, between there and the marina.
My father's office parties were at Pinecrest. Okay, I think I got it. Here's the Win Air building. Hold on one second here. Share screen.
Yeah, all right. Can you do like a bird's eye view?
Bird's eye view.
Yeah, not street view, the other view.
Let's see. And I go out.
Yeah, there you go. So there's the building out, the footprints right there. So this isn't this an
That's
IA?
the restaurant and the
Yeah, but where it says Shelton and Air,
back.
what is that zone? Isn't that IA2?
Yes,
Yeah. So,
yes, it would make that potentially vulnerable.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But I'm not. Okay.
Mr. Rossetti, did you want to address this issue at all?
Not particularly. I'll kind of let the applicant finish his turn.
Okay. Attorney Russo, did you have anything further?
Well, again, I think that this is a use that's appropriate for this zone. When there's other, if you look at the other IA2 uses, lumber businesses are permitted, manufacturing, processing, freight materials, trucking businesses, commercial boathouses. There's some intense industrial uses on this, and I don't think contractor business, especially if it's special exception use, which those others, again, are actually for those IA2 uses, a lot of them are site plan A lot of them are permitted, the commercial boathouses and
Mhm.
marinas, those are permitted as of right. You know, this would be special exception use, where somebody could come and apply before this commission for a building that would, you know, have bays where they could bring their vehicles and store all their materials, which again, I think is a tremendous need in the city. And this commission could have, it's really, you know, one of its highest levels of discretion to control that development.
Mhm.
And when I still think is very limited areas of the city, in appropriate areas.
Yeah, I agree that it is a need that would be nice to address. I agree that the commission would have control over it because of it being a special exception. I just don't want to open up a Pandora's box to something that we may not have understood at the time. So, Mr. Panico, do you have any further comments?
I was going to ask Attorney Russell if the intent of his client is the type of subcontractors, if you will, that you discussed, the heating guy, the plumber, the electrical guy. They're all fine operations, and they could probably go into any zone anyhow if they were defined properly. The concern is a major building contractor that has a lot of need for outside storage. He might have forms, he might have scaffolding, he might have a whole bunch of things that need to go into these big outdoor areas. And that's where the commission gets concerned about. And that's why we've kept them we kept the major building contractor operations out of the IA zones.
Mhm.
Maybe we need to try to come up with some definition of a different type of building contractor.
Mhm. I know that there was a lot of
The subcontractor, not the general contractor.
there was a lot of angst amongst the commission for the last couple of years after the business on Huntington Street and Commerce Drive was approved that does the testing on the rail lines because they have their trucking, all their trucks outside and everything. And we don't want to have that happening in inappropriate areas of the
I
town.
mean, if a foundation contractor was interested in locating in a facility that you would provide, he's going to have all kinds of forms, et cetera, that get stored outside.
Mhm.
So yeah, you need that outside supporting storage areas if you're going to allow this thing. So I don't know, and I'm not sure yet how we control it.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure yet how you would define conditions for a special exception, which would say, yes, we're going to allow you to do it here, and no, we're not going to allow you to do it here.
Mhm. And a couple of years ago, I remember
Without
when
it being subjective.
Commissioner Parkins was the chair. She was very concerned on Todd Road where the tire company is, that he was letting a landscaper use the outside parking lot for his landscaping mulch and things that he
That's another concern. They would fall into that category.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But there's a difference between a guy that just goes out and cuts lawns and a guy that not only cuts lawns, but he mulches and he fertilizes and he replaces gravel, et cetera. So he's got to have all these supplies that he wants to store. He doesn't want to have to go down the street and buy it every time he needs it.
Yeah, and the supplies may not be in nice little boxes that UPS drops off. Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Lascos, Commissioner Ticky, and Commissioner Mato, do you want to weigh in on any of this?
I'm not absorbing this very well. This is pretty complicated. I have to think about all these different areas and what this would look like.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to weigh in on this at all.
The
frankly.
aesthetics are very concerning, for sure.
I think they are. I think Mr. Panico, he kind of summed it all up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
What
I think
would it be?
I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Ticky, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree that we might need to take a look at what specifically we would allow in some of those certain areas, because I do remember the issue on Todd Road facing Bridgeport Ave, and we might need to take a look what would be the sorts of things that we would be open to based on the zone that they're in. So I think that was a good point, Mr. Panico, that maybe we could take a look at and see some of the more particulars with that.
Mhm. Maybe the solution is that all storage has to be contained within the building. No,
Or put a very, very severe limitation on the amount of outside storage that's allowed.
Yeah.
Not what we would normally allow to a regular manufacturer.
Mhm.
Maybe it's 10% or something of the leased area.
And you know, that's part of, I guess, the trouble with this definition of this use is that the contractor's business use is tied to the storage yard use.
Yes, I think you're right.
If you're a painter, I mean, you're not going to store your paint cans or your brushes outside in a storage yard. I mean, you are going to contain everything within the building, obviously. And I think there's a lot of contractors that have no need for outdoor storage. There's some that do, but I think a large category of them that would really have no need for it.
Mhm.
I think there's some commissioners left to comment on it. I would ask if we could continue the application once everybody's given their comments, that we can look at tightening that up, that language, and trying to find a way to separate the plumber and the and the painter and those folks that are not that level of operation.
Yeah.
Chris, might I suggest that you consider asking for an amendment that establishes a subline beyond use line 45, like a 45A, which would be very narrow in terms of just building contractors, businesses, no storage, and allow them as a special exception use in that zone. And from our point of view, we're not really loosening up our regulations and accommodating potential outside storage in areas that we never envisioned them. We're simply accommodating what a contractor can do within the walls of his building.
Right.
I think
If he wants
that's
to store something, he's got to store it inside.
I think that's an important statement that Mr. Panico said, that would be storage in areas that in town that we would never envision them to be. So, Commissioner Kelly, Commissioner Laskos, any comments?
Yeah, I do agree with Attorney Russo that it is a lower impact because of the amount of that zone. But I do like Mr. Panico's suggestion of like a sub reg on that, kind of controlling
A subsection kind of thing.
subsection.
A new use line, that's a subsection of that use line.
Yeah, that sounds like a good solution.
It does, and the amendment would do that. I mean, if you're a big enough contractor, you're going to have your own storage yard.
Right.
Whether you're a general contractor, if you're a crane operator, you're going to have your own storage yard. You're talking about the smaller guy, and I think an amendment would do that.
Talking about if you're a contractor and everything, everybody is familiar with, I think, a Quick Pick company that was for years on Bridgeport Avenue, next to the ice cream shop, and the owner was able to purchase a lot of land right past the Derby Police Station. He relocated a lot of his equipment there. There's hardly anything. There's nothing really left that is outside anymore. And he had that property right next to the ice cream shop and one on the other side of, further down across from Antonio's Pizza. There was a huge garage in the back, and you would see his equipment there. That was right in the middle of residential, old residential. So we hate to interfere in that. So Attorney Russo, I was going to ask for the commission to continue the public hearing. But before I do, Mr. Rossetti, did you want to weigh in this?
I think the recommendations are fine. It's definitely a need within town. Our zoning enforcement branch of our department definitely deals with on a regular basis in terms of contractors with trucks and vans and panel vans and trying to, say, hey, you can't really have this parked here overnight, or we're getting complaints about it. So it is a need. We ultimately like the intent of where this proposal is going. If the commission feels that this is the way they would like to see it handled, we're happy to accommodate that and work with Chris and get that taken care of, and we can have it back in front of you pretty soon, I think.
Okay. All right, last call for comments. All right, is there, not hearing any, is there a motion to continue public hearing for application 2112?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion to continue from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
Second it.
Commissioner Laskos has seconded, and on the motion to continue application 2112, do roll call. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion is passed 5-0. So staff will schedule the continuation of this application on an upcoming meeting agenda. And if there's any further material that needs to be added to the website, Attorney Russo, please make sure that you are in touch with Mr. Rossetti so that it'll be done at an appropriate time before that particular meeting.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I really appreciate the feedback, and we'll get to revising this now.
Thank you so much for your patience tonight. So, okay, final item on the agenda is the minutes for approval of July 13th. I would just like to table these because I was going to suggest a clarification to comments that were made by Commissioner Parkins in the discussion of application 4893, which were the changes suggested for exterior signage for Chase Bank on Bridgeport Avenue. And as she's not present this evening to confirm the clarification, I was just going to ask for a motion to table if other commissioners have any objections to that. Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to table the approval of the July 13th, 2021 meeting minutes?
Commissioner
So
Ticky,
moved.
motion.
Okay, Commissioner Tiki, and is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Kelly. So on the motion to table, made by Commissioner Tiki, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. Do roll call. Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Motion is passed 5-0. And just a notation as shown on the agenda for July 21st, special meeting minutes are on the website for review, and
They weren't on as far as tonight was. As far as 4 o'clock, they weren't on.
no, you're absolutely right. I did get my copy through email that I
Okay.
did get ahead of time. So they will be available on the website by the time the agenda for the next meeting is set up. And that next meeting is August 10th. So,
Okay.
okay. All right, that is, all those are all our agenda items. So seeing that there's no further items on the agenda, the chair declares the meeting to adjourn as of 8:14 p.m.
Night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.